Hi there. My understanding of Gnosticism, well, I've been studying it for a long time, but always it seems to me there's something fresh to study about Gnosticism or to understand or to grasp, if grasp is the right word. Um, you know, Gnosticism requires intelligence, learning, knowledge, knowledge of books and things like that, but it also requires intuition as well, sort of like the three pillars of Kabbalah. And direct experience of the energy of the kingdom within is of prime importance, but only in context, I think, of knowledge and intelligence, because you have to connect the dots and you have to give meaning to your experiences. Otherwise, otherwise they're no more really than Harry Potter stories. Anyway, that's as maybe. I want to talk about Gnosticism and dualism because it's an ongoing criticism of Gnosticism that it's overly dualistic. In other words, it says that matter is evil, all matter is all evil, and spirit is all good. All spirit is all good, which I know, logically doesn't make much sense in terms of all SRP for a start. But all SRP could only apply to this particular world. It might not apply to any other dimension. So the logic of induction might break down in some other dimension than this one. So bearing that in mind, I'm kind of skipping around here and trying not to get to the point. The point is that I think that when you like, there's modern Gnosticism and there's classical Gnosticism, and maybe classical Gnosticism has much more to do with the duality or dualism of Zoroastrianism. That this world is a battleground between Drug and Asher, and the Drugavan and the Ashvan. And it's a simple matter of choosing sides, really, and it's a bit like sort of Star Wars, with the Sith versus the Jedi, and which perhaps on one level it is, but I don't think it's a very helpful level of consciousness to be stuck in. Certainly, one reads, goes to see a Star Wars movie, and then you come away and have your popcorn or your chips or whatever, and that's sort of call it a night sort of thing. It was entertaining at the time, but we don't really hold much. We don't go around seeing Sith and Jedi walking down up and down the high street. You know what I mean? Because that would just be silly. Anyway, but so that's one sort of dualism in Zoroastrianism, and classical Gnosticism perhaps shares in sort of black and white thinking as regards to that. But modern Gnosticism, to my mind, or at least as far as I understand it, is much more. It takes a lot more from non-dualistic Vedanta, in that the higher worlds, if you want to call them that, or the divine kingdom within, as Jesus called it, the higher worlds are non-dualistic. And non-dualism is a state which we can really hardly imagine. It might even be, as far as our consciousness is concerned, a sort of platitude, really. I mean, what does non-dualism actually mean? What does it look like? What does it smell like? Or does it smell or look like anything at all? Or does it smell or look like anything that we've ever seen before? I don't know, really. I'm not there, so I can't tell you, and I haven't been there. So I can't bring the tiger's fang back to you as proof that I have been there, which is what I should do, I suppose, really, which would be a result of deep meditation into this matter. But all I can do is speak from this lower plane, this plane of dualism. And but again, how do you explain these two worlds, dualism and non-dualism? I was thinking about this with relation to a Hindu god called Vayu, who is the god of air or god of wind. And I was thinking about Lord Vayu, because I live in Ireland, and where I live, we've just escaped a hurricane. It's just passed north of here, so we didn't actually get much wind at all. But other people in other counties of Ireland probably had structural damage as a result of this hurricane, which is pretty nasty to think about. And poor people, up in the north of Ireland who got hit by this hurricane force winds. So value. So we tend to think of value, wind. It's a windy day. We don't like it, or we don't. We certainly don't like hurricanes, any of us. So that's kind of like the hostile side of value, as far as we're concerned. I mean, perhaps hurricanes do good for the biosphere in some way, shape, or form. But as far as we're concerned, we humans, we're sort of indignant about hurricanes, and we regard them as being rather hostile, and we might shake our little fists at value and say it's not fair that you bring hurricanes to our door. But the other side of value, which is the sort of the beneficent side, is of course without air and streams of air, fertilization, pollinization wouldn't take place. A lot of pollinization is airborne. And if there wasn't any air, trees and plants wouldn't be pollinated, and that might be very bad news for the biosphere and for human beings in the long run. So there's a good side to value, as it were, non-hostile side, and then there's a hostile side to value, which we all know about if we've experienced tornadoes and cyclones and hurricanes, which many of you listening to this probably have. But so that's sort of in the plane of duality. We have value acting with beneficence and the opposite, maliciousness. Well, not exactly maliciousness, but anyway, malnificence, I suppose. Anyway, but some people also say, who are very spiritually advanced, is that the hostile side of value, the side that is sent against us, as it were, the hurricane side of value, is in fact a blessing. It's value's blessing on us, in fact. And we should be grateful for the hurricane, because it means that value has noticed us, and he's asking us to be devotees of him. So basically, if you have a hurricane, afterwards you should be grateful, and you should go and praise value, and say how nice it was to bless you with this hurricane, no matter what this hurricane did. And it might even have killed a loved one, for example, or certainly ripped your house to pieces. But it is his blessing, and that takes a lot of spiritual courage or spiritual enlightenment to see that all that value sends is welcome. Basically, that's what you're really saying, you see. Looking at value as an archetype, even if you don't want to look at value in pagan terms, or in polytheistic terms, that is, if you don't like that. I'm just saying that value is a symbol. So value, that's kind of value operating on this plane. And I suppose when you see that value has blessed you with a hurricane, this consciousness, this realization may propel you to the next level of value, which is his creative role, his role in the creation of the entire universe. We talk about solar winds, and I can't help thinking that perhaps the wind it has a sort of role to play in the actual creation of the entire universe. I don't really know how that might be. I don't really understand physics, so I'm not sure how a physicist would answer that. To what extent does wind really have anything to do with the creation of the entire universe as we know it? But perhaps there is, and so value would operate on that higher level. But then on a higher level again, that is to say the level of non-dualism, value, the God value, actually enters into oneness. So that basically, there isn't any value, there isn't any hurricane or non-hurricane, there isn't a presence of value or an absence of value, because he's entered into the non-dualistic higher world, you see. And that's the higher world that we wish to get to, that in our heart of hearts we wish to get to, because that's where we were before we came down to sojourn in the lower worlds of duality. And I guess really that that would seem to me to kind of point to an understanding of Gnosticism in terms of non-dualistic Vedanta. And really, we're getting away from the sort of classic, rather rudimentary understanding of dualism, which is just good versus evil, Drug versus Asher, and trying to kind of create a new paradigm whereby we can understand gods and goddesses and astral actions and things that go bump in the night, which is all in our perception anyway. To put it in Buddhist terms, we have to understand this according to a non-dualistic paradigm. So I hope that makes any sense to you whatsoever, and if it does, leave a comment below. Thank you very much.